Hello, and welcome to more info dumping. The other day, you may or may not have seen, I finally showed off another Lottle character, so now it's time to talk all about her. This video is all about Bunlea. Well, it's not all about her. There's some stuff to talk about with the other three guys as well. But for the most part, this video is all about her. So theoretically, it should be shorter because I'm only talking about one character. But there's a lot to talk about, as I will start to show you. So honestly, I don't know, but let's just get going before I ramble even more on the first slide. So why does she get her own video? The main reason for this is just she was not ready at the time that I made the other video. Bunlea has been kind of been in the background for a very long time at this point, and I was just very much struggling to truly figure out both her design and her personality. But she's always been intended to be part of the crew. I really wanted to have her ready back in July for Art Fight when that was going on. But I just did not have her ready at that point. But it's also, I'm kind of glad it worked out this way because Bunlea is a very complex character, and there is a lot to talk about with her that I think out of the main four, she is definitely the one who kind of warrants her own video. Not to say that I think the others aren't, complex in their own ways, but I think Bunlea is different from the other three characters in the sense that you can kind of look at all three of them and just kind of have a general idea of what's going on with them. Like, you can really get an idea of what their personalities are like just by looking at them. Bunlea has a bit more to how she appears on the surface. There's a bit more to her than that. And I think it's good to talk about her separately because Bunlea contrasts with the other characters in a lot of ways that I think, with having the prior knowledge of what Lottle, Fred, and Tweet are all about, which, by the way, if you haven't watched the first video of me talking about those three, you should definitely do that first, actually. So go back and watch that before you watch this if you have not already. But as I was saying, it's like Bunlea with Bunlea in the picture now, you can kind of get a better understanding of those three because they all kind of contrast with each other in a pretty interesting way, and I'm chomping at the bit to talk about it because I really love these characters. The last reason is just irony. It's kind of ironic that Bunlea is the one who has her own video out of the main three. Well, not out of the main four. The other main three do not. They shared a video. You'll see later why it's ironic, but we'll get to that in a bit. For now, let me actually show you Bunlea herself. And her little bio here. We have Bunlea, the character cadet, the carrot cadet, because she's a bunny. She likes carrots. She's the galaxy gallivanting gal. I don't have much to say about that other than the fact that I learned that apparently gallivanting spelled with A-L-A-V-A-N instead of L-L-I-V-A-N. Apparently the L-A-V-A-N, that is the less common spelling, which from my perspective doesn't seem true. I feel like I've seen that one way more. I feel like I'm being gaslit into thinking that this is the more common spelling, because I have definitely not seen it as much. But I don't know, I just put that spelling because I didn't want people to yell at me for putting the less common one. Anyway, that's a tangent. She's a galaxy gallivanting gal. She explores the cosmos. She's the resourceful rabbit on the run. By resourceful, I don't mean like reduce, reuse, recycle, not like that. She's very quick-witted, and she uses her surroundings to her advantage very, very well. And she's always on the move, always looking for something new to do. She's a fuzzy force to be reckoned with. She's very powerful. She's the most physically capable of the main four, and she is a self-important space bunny. That's a very important quality of Bunlea here. She's very selfish, and we'll talk a bit more about that later, but for now, just know that's a very important trait of her. As for her actual bio here, Bunlea is a space explorer who crash-landed near Lottle's home. She views life as her own adventure, for better or for worse. Despite her friendly demeanor, she can be extremely threatening and will not hesitate to annihilate anyone who stands in her way. That last sentence is kind of a gut punch, because I feel like if you just look at Bunlea, and not really read anything, she just kind of looks like a typical happy little space astronaut lady who's just happy to have a little adventure, and that is true for her, but she's also like I said, a fuzzy force to be reckoned with, and if you get in her way, she will be extremely pissed off, and she will just probably straight up kill you. So there's a lot to talk about with Bunlea, with how complex of a character she is. So we're gonna do that, but first I think we have the reference sheet here for her, which not too much to go over here. I really like her little emblem that she has, which is the star and the carrot. I just think it's very simple, but it's very cute. There's her ears that make no sense. Don't think about how her ears work with the helmet. Just the less you think about it, the happier you will be. It doesn't make sense. There's the little hammer space cottontail where she can just store whatever items she needs to in her tail. I originally had her have like she had a little holster on her belt, which gave more purpose to the belt, but I was like, it's kind of hard to draw the gun sticking in her belt. It was very difficult, so I was just like, no, you know what, fuck it. She can just put shit in her tail, and I think that's funny. She does still put it in her belt occasionally, though, but not often. And we just have some doodles. I like how it kind of, she's at the top of the little doodle sheet. She kind of starts off very, very happy-go-lucky and cute, but as you kind of go down towards the bottom of the page, she just kind of gets progressively more insane. And I think that's a very good indication of what her character is like. So I love those. Oh my god, I forgot about this. I forgot this picture was here. So now we're going to get into kind of the history of Bunlea and how she got to that point. So Bunlea started out, initially she was an aardvark inventor, and I have a design for her as an aardvark. Obviously her name wasn't Bunlea at that point because she wasn't a bunny, but I don't really like the design. I don't want to share it. I might do something with it later. I might try to clean it up and just make an entirely separate character out of it as like a side character. But for now, this is all you get, is that she was an inventor aardvark, because for some reason, I felt that like the perfect way to round out the quartet of main characters, to round out Lottle, Fred, and Tweed, was to have a tech-savvy mammal lady. I don't know why, it just seemed like that was the perfect fit to complement an amphibian reporter, a sentient camera, and a detective bird. It was an inventor mammal. And I started with an aardvark, but I didn't like it, and somewhere or another she became a bunny. I don't remember exactly where that happened. It's a little fuzzy, haha. But that's kind of a brief history of how Bunlea came to be. So here are some of the first doodles of her, which she didn't really change too much in her design, aside from, starting as an aardvark, but once I settled on her being a bunny, it didn't really take too long for me to get a general idea of what she should look like. On the left there, she had a scarf at one point. I think there's some other pictures later where she has a bandana. There's the first iteration of her carrot gun, which is pointed the other way, and I realized, like, wait, it would make more sense to have it go the other way. There's her ship itself, which is not the final design for it. I don't really have that yet, but obviously it's a carrot-shaped rocket ship, which I think is pretty darn cool. I got some other doodles here. Something I had to scribble out because I don't want to show it yet. But she had like an antenna on her helmet at one point. I was really experimenting with trying to make her design stand out. You can see there's like she has like some more star-shaped stuff going on all over her, and I just kind of thought it was too much. There's a point where I was like, maybe she should be in some like high-tech like space armor or something to make her look even more threatening, and I still like that idea for her to have like some kind of armor suit at some point, but for now I think it's better for her to just be in the just normal kind of suit like that, little jumpsuit like that. And yeah, here's when the design started to get fleshed out a bit more. The picture on the right, the digital drawing, I can't remember when I drew that exactly, but that was honestly before a lot of the other doodles as well. And I just kind of, I started off very simple with it, and I just kind of kept trying to add to it. I'm pretty sure that's how it went. And then eventually, after just like so long of just being like, I don't know what her design should be, I just kind of decided I should go back to basics and just keep her design fairly simple, like the way it is on the right. And I'm glad I did that, because I was trying way too hard with some of the other designs there. So yeah. on that one little random digital doodle with 2 Lottle faces and 1 Tweed. I drew the perfect Bunlea design, and I just kind of kept it from there. So there's the history of Bunlea, essentially. Now it's time to talk about her actual character and what she actually is. So Bunlea is very important to the story of Lottle. One, because she has a mysterious history with Fred, and given that Fred is kind of the only other character that kind of has a mysterious element to him, you can tell there's some importance there. I can't really tell you what the history with Fred that she has is, because I don't really know what it is yet myself, so I literally can't tell you. But also, you know, with the vague idea that I do have, it is kind of spoilery. But the fact that there is history, that's not really a spoiler to me. It's the history itself and what that is that I don't want to talk about yet. But there's also just her importance to the overall plot, like of how it progresses and stuff, because she crash lands near Lottle's home and immediately just treats it as an adventure and starts running around exploring the world and just having fun with it, essentially. Lottle, on the other hand, sees her crash site, and she just wants to interview her, because that's like going to be the scoop of her career, but Bunlea is just constantly adventuring and constantly on the run, so Lottle is just kind of always in pursuit of Bunlea, essentially. And along the way, she's going to encounter several other weird mysteries, some of which are like directly caused by Bunlea's exploration, and she'll deal with those and argue with Tweed many times along the way, and that's kind of a vague idea of what the story is like. And in a sense, Bunlea is kind of the catalyst of all the major events of the story, so she's very important in that regard. So obviously, with a character like that, she's got a lot of secrets to her. She's a very, she's like the most spoilery character, I would say, out of the main 4. She's got a lot of, she's hiding a lot of things, and obviously with that in mind, there's not a ton I can say about her, but there's still like some stuff that I will still talk about. Obviously, you can tell by the length of this video, there's a lot to talk about with Bunlea, so we'll get into what I can tell you about her. Bunlea has a big ol' heaping case of main character syndrome. She's extremely self-important. She views herself as the protagonist of not just her own life, but everyone else's lives. She thinks that other people really only exist to better herself. Everyone she meets, she just kind of immediately puts into one of two boxes. Good guys that she needs to help, and bad guys that she needs to beat. Both of those things are just kind of there to better herself, make herself look better. If she's helping someone, that's good. If she's beating up a bad guy, that's also good. It just makes her look like a good person. So that's kind of her mindset of the world, which is not a great mindset, because it's a very self-centered mindset, and she doesn't really view other people as like other people that are worthy of living their own lives. They're all just support to her. I just think there is a wonderful sense of irony in having a character who so desperately thinks they are the main character not be the main character. Obviously, Bunlea is a main character, but she's not the main character. That's Lottle. That's also why this video itself is a bit ironic, like I said at the beginning, because she is the one who thinks she is the main character, but she's not, yet she's the one that actually gets her own video. I just think that's kind of funny. But yeah, you might hear me say all this stuff about Bunlea and get a little suspicious, because she's got all this stuff going for her. She's got so many interesting complexities to her, and you're like, well, why is she not the main character? What makes Lottle so special in the sense that she's the main character and Bunlea is not? And to that, we gotta talk about how Bunlea sees Lottle, because Lottle, as an anti-hero, like I said, she is an anti-hero. She has both good and bad qualities to her, which, by the way, I don't think I really talked about this much in the other video. I kind of explained where Fred's and Tweed's names came from, but I didn't really talk about Lottle's name. Lottle is obviously just the last 2 syllables of axolotl, and it's really kind of as simple as that, but there's a bit more depth to it that I thought of later in kind of thinking of Lottle's personality. Lottle is a combination of a lot and a little. which kind of, from just a kind of straightforward standpoint, describes how Lottle is kind of this short little character, but she's got a lot of personality inside of her, and she's got a lot of gumption and a lot of, pizzazz, I guess, inside of her, that makes her such an interesting character. A little and a lot are also two conflicting statements. They are contradictory descriptions. And Lottle being, one, an anti-hero who is both good and bad, and also just being the bizarre creature that she is that doesn't make a lot of sense with how she talks and the way that she views the world. Lottle herself is kind of a walking contradiction, which I think is a very interesting way to describe her. And because Lottle is that way, Bunlea does not know how to perceive Lottle. Bunlea only sees people as either good or bad. She sees the world in a very kind of black and white way. Not literally, she's not colorblind, but like, she only sees people as either being good or being bad, and because Lottle has both of those qualities, she's so confused by Lottle. Lottle is just an absolute enigma to her, and she doesn't know how to even think about her. And it's ironic, again, because Bunlea herself is also somewhat of an anti-hero, like Lottle is, but Bunlea herself would never admit to being that way. Bunlea only sees herself as a hero. She is pretty oblivious to the bad qualities that she possesses. Bunlea's not a villain. I don't want people to think, with how vague and mysterious I'm being about Bunlea, that she's like the secret twist villain, because she's not. She's not a villain, but she's hardly a hero either with the way that she views the world and her motivations for doing things. She acts like a hero, but she does it for the wrong reasons. So she contrasts with Lottle in a lot of interesting ways there, and is confused by her status of being an anti-hero, even though she herself is kind of an anti-hero as well. And as far as Bunlea and Tweed's relationship, well, not really their relationship, but just kind of how they differ from each other, because both of these characters are somewhat rivals to Lottle in a sense, in their own different ways, of course. They both possess, Bunlea and Tweed, they both possess the quality of arrogance. They both think very highly of themselves, but they kind of do it in very different ways. Tweed has no reason to be arrogant. He is kind of a shame to society. He's not a physically strong dude. He is a smart guy, but he's rarely given the chance to prove his intelligence because the universe just fucking hates him. He has the worst luck ever. He has no reason to think too highly of himself, but he does it anyway, and he owns up to his arrogance. He's not unaware of the fact that he is an asshole, and he's not shy about the fact that he is a jerk to people. He kind of blatantly insults people to put them down. He's not shy about it. He owns up to it. Bunlea, on the other hand, she kind of deserves to be arrogant. Like, she has every reason to do so. She is a very physically capable person. She is very strong. She has beaten up countless foes over the galaxies, and she's had so many adventures over the years. She has every reason to kind of think highly of herself. But the difference is that she is oblivious to the fact that she's arrogant. When she is, putting people down, she's not really conscious of it. She's kind of being very condescending and passive-aggressive and kind of lifting herself up in doing so. And that is kind of that's how they differ a bit. Tweed is aware of his status of being a jerk. Bunlea is not. She thinks she's great. She's that arrogant that she thinks she's so great that she couldn't possibly be arrogant. That just doesn't make sense to her. So that's cool. And we're going to kind of go away from talking about Bunlea a little bit and just kind of talk about the main four in general now for just a little bit, just at the end now. Because I can't tell you how satisfying it is to see all four of these characters together now, because these have always been intended to be the four main characters. And Bunlea is indeed the fourth and final main character. Obviously, there are still characters, but they're all kind of, side characters, quote-unquote, NPCs. And I love these guys because, make no mistake, these guys are all jerks. In their own different ways, they are all complete asswipes and dickwads to both each other and everyone around them. The Lottle gang is what I am considering to be a found family of foes. And by that, I mean... Well, first let me just say, I love the found family trope, okay? It's a great trope, it's very heartwarming, but at this point, I'm kind of getting tired of writing characters who are just kind of unapologetically nice and lovely to each other. I want to see some jerks, okay? I want some absolute assholes, and these guys are jerks. They're absolute jerks. So these guys are like, they all hate each other, with the exception of Lottle and Fred. Those two are buddies. But everyone else, they kind of have this mutual dislike toward each other. But, like, the thing is like, that mutual hatred is kind of, it's beautiful in its own way, you know? And it's like that, the connection that they have is kind of the only connection that they have to other people. These four, they're really only comfortable around each other, but, like, they hate that because they hate each other. So it's a very weird dynamic. And it's, again, it kind of ties into Lottle being a contradiction, because none of what I said really makes sense. And that's kind of the point. And last thing to really talk about here, this is just some kind of funny design parallels that I think are just kind of cute. So Bunlea obviously has bunny ears because she's a bunny. But something you may not have noticed is that Tweed, the little ribbons, or whatever they're called, I don't know, little ribbon string thing, bow on top of his detective hat is also kind of shaped like bunny ears, and that was a very intentional thing on my part, because when I was designing this design for Tweed earlier this year, I was very aware of Bunlea's existence and her importance to the story, and I wanted to have some more connections here. Now, Lottle obviously doesn't have that, you know, because she wears a fedora, but if you look back at the doodle sheet of Lottle, and you look at the doodle where she does not have a hat on, you can see that she's got some little, those are frills, by the way. They're like the frills on the side of her head, just sticking up on the top of her head, because she's weird. Even though that's not how normal axolotls are, but she has them. And they are also somewhat shaped like bunny ears as well, just kind of tiny. Speaking of Lottle's frills, though, something else you may have noticed, obviously Lottle has them sticking out of the side of her head, but the other two characters kind of have it as well, with their feathers and fur, respectively. They kind of have these two little things protruding out on the side of their heads for both of them, and I just think it's a cute little detail. There's no real significance to that, like, it doesn't really mean anything. I just thought it was cute and a nice little connection, and, you know, Fred doesn't have any of that because he's a camera, and it's kind of hard to add stuff like that to his design. So sorry, Fred, you don't get to be in the parallel club, but you're still a very important part of the team. So I think that's it. That's all I have to really say about Bunlea and her effect on the Lottle universe, and how she relates to the other characters, and how the four of them together, make a very interesting quartet and a very interesting dynamic. So yeah, that's kind of it for this video. I don't think there's really going to be any other Lottle info dumping videos like this, because you kind of have, all you need to know is like a vague idea of what the story is about, and until the story is actually ready to be shared, there's not much else to say. I'm probably just going to keep posting the occasional music track and just any other drawings that I feel like sharing with them, which is going to be a lot, because these guys are constantly on my brain, and I just always love drawing them. So, that's it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.